Listen, something absolutely massive just broke in the baseball world, and it involves the Toronto Blue Jays in a way nobody saw coming. Bob Nightingale, one of the most connected insiders in all of baseball, just made a prediction that has every single Blue Jays fan losing their minds right now. We're talking about Kyle Tucker potentially landing in Toronto on a deal worth $460 million. This isn't some random tweet from a blogger or speculation from a fan account. This is Bob Nightingale saying he genuinely believes Tucker ends up wearing blue and white, and when someone with his track record speaks, the entire league pays attention. What makes this even more interesting is the timing. The Blue Jays just went through an off-season where they extended Vladimir Guerrero Jr., showing they're serious about building something special. They've made it clear through their actions that mediocrity isn't acceptable anymore. This organization wants to win championships, and they're willing to put their money where their mouth is. So when Nightingale connects those dots and points directly at Toronto as Tucker's landing spot, it's not coming from nowhere. There's actual logic behind it, and the players themselves have apparently created an environment that makes Toronto attractive to elite free agents. Now, The Athletic came out with their projection for Tucker's contract, and they're saying 12 years at $460 million. Let that sink in for a second. We're talking about nearly $500 million for one player. This would completely shatter every single franchise record the Blue Jays have ever set. But here's the thing. Tucker isn't just any player. This is a four-time All-Star who does everything at an elite level. His plate discipline is off the charts. His power numbers speak for themselves. And defensively in right field, he's one of the best in the game. You're not just adding a good hitter or a solid defender. You're adding a complete player who impacts winning in every possible way. Imagine the middle of that lineup for a second. You've got Vlad Jr. hitting third, and then Kyle Tucker comes up behind him in the cleanup spot. Pitchers would have nowhere to hide. You can't pitch around Vlad because Tucker is standing there, ready to punish you. You can't attack Vlad aggressively knowing you've got another monster bat right behind him. That's the kind of protection that turns a great hitter into an MVP candidate. And for Tucker, having Vlad in front of him means he's seeing better pitches, too. It's the exact type of offensive synergy that championship teams are built on. But let's talk about what this really means for the organization beyond just the on-field production. If Toronto pulls this off, it sends shock waves through the entire American League East. The Yankees, the Red Sox, the Rays, they all have to recalculate everything they thought they knew about the division. Suddenly, Toronto isn't just knocking on the door anymore. They're kicking it down and announcing themselves as the team to beat. Free agents around the league start looking at Toronto differently too. When you make a move this bold, it tells everyone that you're serious, that you're committed, and that you're building something players want to be part of. The money is obviously significant, and we need to be realistic about what committing $460 million means for roster construction. That's a huge chunk of payroll locked up in one player for over a decade. It limits flexibility. In some areas, sure, but it also gives you certainty at a premium position with a player entering his absolute prime years. Tucker is 28 years old right now. You're paying for his age 29 through 40 seasons, and the bulk of that contract covers years where he should still be producing at an all-star level. Compare that to some of these contracts where teams are paying for a player's decline years, and suddenly the value proposition looks a lot better. Ross Atkins and the front office have shown they're willing to be aggressive when the right opportunity presents itself. They went out and made moves to improve the roster. Last season, they locked up Vlad, and they've been connected to virtually every major free agent on the market. This isn't a front office that's afraid to spend money or take risks. They understand the window is open right now, and championship windows don't stay open forever. You have to be aggressive and decisive when you have the chance to add a player of Tucker's caliber. The skeptics will point out that Toronto has struggled to land elite free agents in the past, and there's some truth to that. But the circumstances are completely different now. The team just made the playoffs. The core is locked in long-term, and the competitive environment has shifted. Players want to win, and they want to play somewhere that gives them the best chance to compete for championships. Toronto checks those boxes now in a way they didn't 5 or 6 years ago. That narrative about players not wanting to come to Toronto is outdated, and landing Tucker would officially bury it for good. Think about what this does for the clubhouse too. You're bringing in a veteran leader who's been there and done that at the highest levels. Tucker has playoff experience. He's been an all-star multiple times, and he carries himself like a professional every single day. Those intangibles matter more than people realize, especially for a younger roster that's still learning how to win consistently at the major league level. Having someone like Tucker in that locker room elevates everyone around him, not just through his production, but through his approach to the game. The contract structure matters too, and we'll have to see how it breaks down in terms of deferred money, opt-outs, and performance incentives. But even at full value, you're talking about roughly $38 million per year for a player who should be worth well over that in his peak seasons. The first 6 or 7 years of this deal could end up being massive bargains if Tucker continues producing at the level he has throughout his career, and if the back end becomes expensive relative to his production. That's a problem every team would happily sign up for in exchange for championship contention during the prime years. What really stands out about Nightingale's prediction is the confidence behind it. He's not saying Toronto is in the mix or that they have a chance. He's saying he thinks it actually happens that Tucker ends up in Toronto. That kind of conviction from someone with his sources and credibility makes this feel different from typical off-season speculation. There's substance behind the smoke, and Blue Jays fans should be paying very close attention to how this unfolds over the coming weeks. If this somehow comes together and Tucker signs that $460 million deal to play in Toronto, we're looking at a franchisee-defining moment that shifts the entire trajectory of this organization. The Blue Jays would instantly become one of the most dangerous offensive teams in baseball, with a legitimate championship window, stretching out over the next 5 or 6 seasons at minimum. That's what this level of investment can buy you when you target the right player at the right time. And Kyle Tucker is absolutely that player.